What's going on, everybody? Another episode with First Seed Sports here. I'm Mike, joined by Donte today. We're going to
Yo,
get
yo,
into
yo.
some Dynasty content. It's been a while since we've been on here. We got the draft right around the corner, about 2 months away here. Combine kicked off today. Donte, how you feeling about this season, man?
Feeling really good. Feeling really good. Really exciting draft class coming up. Saw the D lineman running today, the 40-yard dash. It's always funny seeing like the big men do the skill position drills and see how lethargic they look. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the prospects look like going forward in this combine process and the draft coming up. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I like the way they started. They start with the big men, so everything just gets better the next day. So yeah, they got that out of the way today, but it was fun to watch. Definitely a lot of stuff going on, a lot of good prospects coming up. A lot of this is going to be a good draft class, like Dante said. So I'm kind of excited there. Um, let's get into a few things that we noticed right off rip here. It seems like every year in the draft process, you have more and more people starting to hold out during the combine, not doing the drills, not showcasing. What do you think about that? And what do you think is the main reason that some of these guys are like holding out here?
Well, I think it makes sense that the top talent would hold off on showcasing what they have because I mean they're a lock to be. Well, in Caleb Williams' uh, situation, he's the number one pick, so or he's look projected to be the number one pick. So why would he do anything to potentially jeopardize that? Whereas when you got like we don't know who the fourth QB on the who the fourth QB on the list is. You see like Bo Nix and Michael Penix. J.J. McCarthy looks like he's like the leading candidate to be that next guy after May and Jaden Daniels. But that's kind of what the combine is for. Mainly, it's for those guys to showcase what they have and maybe rise up the ranks to get that number four spot. So that's really what I'm looking forward to. The wide receivers, Donnie Mitchell is one guy I'm looking at. We'll go into those guys a little later, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, that's mainly what I think about when it comes to this. Obviously, the top talent's the top talent. We all know, like Marvin Harrison is going to get is the number one wide receiver, so it doesn't make sense for those guys to potentially injure themselves or jeopardize anything that could cost them, a decrease in stock.
Yeah, no, it makes absolute sense. I mean, even us, we were talking about it before the show, going to play college football, and anybody that's been through that process with camps and stuff like that, you do all of your testing, and then you really get into the drills, and it really is there for the guys that want to get a few extra million in that signing day bonus, so or the draft day bonus. So it's those guys that just want to move up the board, maybe one or two spots, just to get that edge. Whereas guys like Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, there's no need to do anything. You're just going to give more people to, or you're going to give more insight on people to talk about you about stuff that really doesn't matter. We know as football players, like all that testing stuff, it's great. And it really shows athletically what you could do, but it doesn't always translate to the football field. So I definitely get what you're putting down there, and I'm on board. If you're a top prospect, no need to be doing that. So, yeah, really, this combine, I feel like every year it's starting to gravitate towards that, where less and less of the top guys are going to actually do it, and instead it's going to be kind of those mid first round guys that just want to keep moving up little by little. So, and we're going to talk about some of them today. So, let's get right into it. First thing we want to mention today is some of our favorite NFL prospects coming up. These may not be your top guys, but some of the guys that we've kind of honed in on a little bit. Dante, who do you like in this upcoming draft class here?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, this guy is a top guy. He'd probably be the number one receiver if it wasn't for Marvin Harrison. But Roma Dunze, just because in this recent mock draft I'm looking at by Mel Kiper, he has him as a giant. So, as a fan, I gotta talk about him a little bit since he could be the number one potential wide receiver for my squad. So Adunze coming out of Washington, really physical receiver. He's like 6'3", like 215, I want to say. But yeah, he's super physical. Great on like press coverage. Like he has a really good way of just if a DB is pressing him, really good way of like swimming around it and just getting open through his physicality. Great one-on-one pass catcher as well. Can just snag it. Really reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins in that aspect, where you can just like if you throw it in his area, he's gonna snag it. Um, and yeah, I mean, we're gonna see more as the process moves along, but I just feel really comfortable with Rome Odunze if we do get him as a Giant. We our receiving core is awful, so at this point, any type of uh, benefit would be helpful at this point. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and the Giants, especially, they've kind of dove into a lot of wide receivers over the past few years, it seems like, and all the receivers they've gotten have kind of been smaller guys. So to go the opposite with an outside XZ receiver might actually open up some stuff for the offense. So there's a few different spots I could see him landing. I think we were mentioning it as well as I pull up Mel Kiper's mock draft here. I believe he was towards the end of the first round, or was it a little bit earlier? I kind of forgot there. Do you remember
where
where
he's
Mel had him ranked here?
well, he was sixth.
He was, right. Yeah. He was one of the earlier guys on the draft board there, going to the Giants at 6. So yeah, that's something that would be pretty damn interesting. Even if the Giants don't snag him, we'll see if he falls a little bit. There's a few teams in the middle of our draft board here that it could actually work out for him. But yeah, that's one of the few I'd say. There's another guy or two that we'll mention, but he's one of the few outside bona fide receivers that would definitely play X or Z in an offense and kind of just stretch the field. And like you said, add that like D hop aspect, just going up over guys and making plays. Another guy like that, too, that we'll mention is Mitchell from Texas. Another dude, tall guy, plays the outside well. And he's another XZ receiver. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting look. He's definitely one of the bigger prospects, definitely a first day kind of guy. So, yeah, we'll get some more info on him. I'm sure we'll see everything kind of pan out when they test in the next day or so. We'll kind of see where he ranks compared to other guys, and like we just mentioned, none of that stuff really matters, and it doesn't really carry over. But it does when that signing day bonus comes in. That extra money is always nice. So.
Absolutely,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
I believe you have another guy as well that you really liked in this class. Who do you got there?
Yeah, so I've been focused on Brian Thomas Jr. He was a wide receiver at LSU. He finished this past season with 68 catches for uh, a little under 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. Mel Kiper has him projected to go to the Bills, which I think would be a great fit. He's a great deep threat wide receiver. Played a lot on the outside for the Tigers, and we all know what happened recently with Gabe Davis and how he feels unhappy about how he's being used in the Bills' offense. And excuse me, we don't know what's going to go on with Stephon Diggs either. I mean, obviously he's going to be back, he's going to return, but long term, we don't know what's going to go on with those guys. So I think Brian Thomas is an excellent fit to join that receiving core and provide another weapon for Josh Allen if he goes to the Bills. If he were to go to the Bills.
Yeah, and like you said too, with the departure of Gabe Davis, it looks like here another big receiver, outside guy, 6'4", 190. So that's another guy that could definitely be a huge threat for Josh Allen, especially if you just let him develop and sit there with the Bills. So that's another guy that I would love to see in that offense here. And I think we lost Donte on the video here just for a second. We'll give him some time to get back in. Um, Another guy I'm taking a look at in this draft class, another wide receiver I'm really excited about. And that doesn't mean that the running backs aren't exciting. There are a few good prospects out there as well that we like, and we'll talk about. But I really love Xavier Worthy this year. That's one of the prospects I'm looking at. Wide receiver who Mel Kiper has going to the Chiefs at the end of the first round. Last pick in the first round. And let me tell you, that dude is a gadget player, smaller wide receiver. Definitely has had a huge impact at Texas last year, 75 receptions. And there we go. We got Donte back here. 75 receptions, 1,000 yards last year, 5 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy is a 6'1 receiver, 170. He's going to be a nice gadget receiver. And if he ends up with Patrick Mahomes, that could be a very, very deadly offense. Another team, like you just mentioned, where the Bills lost Gabe Davis, they just lost MVS, who was their outside receiver, who wasn't that much involved in the offense. But this could be a guy where they kind of move him around, and he could be a nice complement to Rashee Rice and Kelsey. So I'm really high on Xavier Worthy. I think he's a gadget player. I think he could basically play wide receiver all over the field, kind of like CD Lamb esque. And I think he'll if you put him with the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion, of all time. I mean, what a way to start your career and let him grow. I mean, look at what Rashee Rice has done and the development when you play under Patrick Mahomes. You just can't go wrong. You can't really be bad, you know. So yeah, that's one of the guys I'm looking at. Those are three guys that we're really honed in on, that we're kind of just excited to see play out. And as I pull up the draft board here as well, this is more so for the earlier picks. There's a lot of different spots and a lot of stuff going on here. You see Chicago has got some early picks there. Dante's Giants are there at 6. Do they go receiver? Do they pivot? Any team on this list here that you think could really make a splash on draft day? Any teams that you think are going to surprise people coming up?
Well, I think Atlanta is one team to look at for sure. They definitely need a quarterback, and they're in a position where they can move up potentially and snag one of the top four QBs, if not top three. Um, it depends on what they give up, though, as far as um, capital and players wise. But if they can get a quarterback with the amount of offensive weapons that they have with Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, um, they could definitely, excuse me, they could definitely make a lot of moves in the right direction going forward. But they got to capitalize on getting that quarterback, and it's the most important position on the field for a reason. Like it sways like whole franchises if you get that pick right. So um, that would be one team. Obviously, Chicago's another. We don't. It's kind of assumed that Caleb Williams is going to be selected with that first pick, but who knows? We don't know for sure, and they could. It seems like everyone's kind of riding behind Justin Fields. You hear DJ Moore saying that he wants Fields to return, and you hear the fans at the end of the season chanting for Fields to stay. So who knows? I mean, it makes sense from business perspective to keep Caleb Williams because you have that contract for almost 5 years, and you can really capitalize on that. Especially with Caleb Williams and his talent. But yeah, there are a lot of questions for the number one pick, but my sleeper team would probably be Atlanta just because if they do move up and get a quarterback, that offense looks a lot more appetizing, at least fantasy wise.
Yeah, and Atlanta, a young team too. So a lot of great young talent on the offensive side of the football. It would really make sense chemistry wise, just to have a young core that can kind of develop, even if it doesn't work out in year one, and just let it ride a little bit. But yeah, Atlanta could be one of those teams, or at the same time, Atlanta could be the ones taking in Justin Fields and let the Bears take Caleb Williams. Could be vice versa. If the Atlanta wants to move up and make a move, I could definitely see it going either way. But yeah, there's been a lot of chatter, I'd say, over the last week or so here. And for those of you watching, we're in the end of February here. So over the past week, a lot of news coming around these quarterbacks. Is Justin Fields leaving? And I've heard him also get brought up with the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit, which is really interesting. But the one team that I think is going to make a splash in this draft, I have two teams actually. The one team I think is the Giants. I think the Giants, with the news, I think over the past 2 days about Saquon Barkley potentially leaving, I think with that extra cap space, they may feel a little bit more daring to make a move and become really relevant in the NFC East now. Um, Another team that I really like is the Las Vegas Raiders. You just had the news today. Antonio Pierce says that Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback until further notice. I'm calling BS on that. I don't think that they're going to go into a season with Aiden O'Connell or at least have somebody challenging him. I think the Raiders 100% will either trade up or make some kind of splash to get a QB in this offseason. And why not do it in this draft class? Sitting at 13, pretty damn good. And it keeps you in the running to at least get one of those top five QBs, if not one that slides. But like some of the guys you mentioned, maybe McCarthy falls. Maybe that's something they want to do. Maybe they want to move up a little bit. Maybe they move up right in front of Atlanta and Chicago at 9, knowing that they're looking for one. But I think the Raiders, there's no way under that team that kind of had that rebound after doing so bad at the start of the year. I don't think that they're going to be complacent with Aiden O'Connell. That's basically like throwing the season away, and I respect him, and he's just not there. And this team is another team that has talent, especially on the offensive side of the football. They're still working on possibly getting Josh Jacobs to come back and restructuring or coming up with a deal for him. You still got Devontae Adams, and God knows you don't want to waste that talent. So a lot of stuff going on there. A few guys and a few teams that I think could really make a splash in the draft. But yeah, I like those three teams. I could see Atlanta, like you said. I could see the Giants possibly doing something. And I could definitely see the Raiders doing something for sure. So a lot of teams that could really do something. I'm really excited, man. You know, um,
Broncos are another team I would keep an eye on as well, just because they seem to be moving on from Russell, unfortunately, and they definitely need
unfortunately,
a quarterback. I
don't
knew
get me
you weren't
started
going to let
about
that
Russ.
slide. I knew you weren't going to let that slide. Come
Don't,
on, man.
unfortunately, that poor
You're beating a
man.
dead horse. You're beating a dead horse at this point. But um,
Listen,
anyways,
I got, I
they
got,
could do something
I
with
got
Jay.
respect for him, but listen, I think he's a bum, as I've said on here in the
I got
past. I think
respect
the
for him,
guy's,
but
I think he's a bona fide bum. And there was some news that he even came out in an interview last week and said that he would take a huge pay cut just to go play for a team, and it makes damn sense. I
I
wouldn't even
mean,
give him a minimum.
he wants to go back. He in the interview with Brandon Marshall,
He
he said
does.
that he wanted to finish what he started with the Broncos, but Sean Payton's like, no, sir, we do not want you back, and we'll take our chances in the draft with either. I mean, they could go with Michael Penix. I think that would be a little early for him. I think Michael Penix is projected to be like early second round, but if they can get JJ McCarthy, I think that's what the buzz is around for the Broncos right now. If they can sign someone like that or draft someone like that, that would be great for that organization, at least going forward, because they can't really do anything. They don't have a lot of draft capital, and they're gonna
Yeah,
have to
after they
eat that
gave up
contract.
everything for Russ.
Yeah, and
So,
they're still gonna have to eat his contract too. So it's gonna be
yep,
tough.
yep. And yeah, that's unfortunate. It happens with a lot of teams. They get suckered into those contracts. Me being a Dallas Cowboy fan, we basically started all of that with the Z contract. So, been there, done that. But yeah, on the screen here as well, I just wanted to bring up this was the average age for each team going into the season for last year. So obviously a lot of changes here. But this just really shows you all the young teams out there. Like, look at the Chargers, new head coach, new everything. So they're kind of just building that chemistry up. This is going to be a big year for them to kind of get back into the mix. We'll see if Quentin Johnson becomes a thing this year. Does he get revitalized and actually become relevant in that offense? And a lot of other young teams like the Bears sitting there at 10 as well. One of the teams that we mentioned, and even the Giants that I mentioned at 12. All kind of young teams that do have a lot of young talent, especially on the offensive side of the football. So, yeah, fantasy wise, man, it'll be exciting. It's going to be exciting to see which one of these teams, possibly someone in the top 10 here, in terms of age are really willing to just go make a move. Or some teams that are like, hey, we're still in a rebuild. Let's give it another year or so and kind of just remain complacent for the time being. But I think a few teams on this list could definitely go out and make a splash this year for sure. Get some offensive guys. So
Yeah,
definitely something to look forward to.
the most important one though is still the Bears. Like it's so fascinating to see what they're going to do with that first pick. I mean, the most logical decision is to take Caleb, but it would be interesting to see what kind of package it would take to get uh, that number one pick. Like, it would have to be, a young star player and picks, I would imagine, just to get Caleb Williams, and then you have Justin Fields as well, like on top of that, like that could be like Justin Fields hasn't really had like a lot of opportunities to showcase what he can do. I mean, it's really been him just running for his life a majority of the time there, and he really hasn't had, I think, a lot of opportunities to throw or a lot of weapons to throw too. He just got DJ Moore, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do as far as an organization and the Commanders too. I mean, I thought Sam Howell. I thought they would kind of see what what they had with him, but it looks like after this 1 year, they're gonna uh, see what they can do with either Jane Daniels or Drake May. Who do you think is like better out of the two? Who would you take? Not fantasy, just like franchise wise.
Give me those players again.
Uh, Daniels and May, Drake May and Jane Daniels.
Hmm. See, that's kind of hard because I kind of like what both of them could do. I believe it comes down to the right fit. It really does depend where they end up. Talent wise, I think Daniels is right there. I think he's more NFL ready. I think May is going to be more of a project. But yeah, it kind of just comes down to the fit for me. I don't know how excited I'd be about either of them coming into the league right away with a bad team because we've seen plenty of that over the years. You get talented quarterbacks that aren't superstars but have the talent to be decent in the NFL, and they come in and they're just forced into stuff, and it just never works out. And next thing you know, everybody's talking down on. Sees their potential anymore. So, yeah, it kind of just depends on the fit, but I'd probably lean Daniels between the two, is probably what I'd be looking at. Um, and I want to bring this up as well as I pull this onto the screen here. Speaking of free agents, there are a ton of free agents. And to be honest, I look at this every year. I don't know if it's been this relevant over the past few seasons, but there are a ton of free agents out there this year. And I want to pull up the running backs here just so we could take a look. This is
Yeah,
just
running
some
back
of them.
class alone.
Let's see if this actually pulls here. But yeah, there are so many free agents out there this year. And I know it, I think it starts in a week or so, but so many guys to take a look at. You got Derrick Henry out there who's supposedly on the move. Josh Jacobs, I haven't heard any rumors about him going to new teams, but rather I know that they're just trying to restructure his contract and get him re signed to something new. Saquon, we as we heard of today and yesterday, is on the move. Tony Pollard, another free agent, who Dallas really hasn't any plans to bring him back as of yet. There hasn't really been any chatter there. Austin Eckler, which seems like every team in the NFL is kind of just written off at this point. It seems like nobody wants him. Even the Chargers don't want him, and he's getting up there too. And then you got some older guys going down the list here, but a ton of talent, a lot of talent on the offensive side of the football. I feel like some of these names will definitely shake up what happens. I'd assume what you're going to see is everything's going to go off the draft. Everybody's going to kind of see how the first, second, third round goes. And then you'll get your later talent in the later rounds. And then once they get the draft together, they'll kind of figure out and say, like, hey, here are some guys out here. Here are some guys we should go after. Here are some guys that we shouldn't, and we should just dump and get rid of, just draft young. We saw the Chiefs do it with MVS, and now the Chiefs, obviously, it seems like for the past how many years have drafted young receiver in hopes of just filling that window to get some more talent on that side of the football. So yeah, a lot of stuff, and then you look at the receivers as well. Let me make sure this pulls up here. Some of the receiver free agents are ridiculous. A lot of names out there too. Have you been hearing like any rumors? Do you think anything special is going to happen with some of these receivers this year in terms of getting signed anytime soon?
No, I mean, I thought with T. Higgins we may get something, but the Bengals just franchise tagged him, so that was the one kind of player I was really looking at. Out of this list, you could say Marquise Brown has the potential to really shake up
Yeah,
a receiving core if he goes to a new team for sure. Um, Mike Evans, I think he wants to stay a Buck, so that's why I'm not really, um, interested in what's going on with him in the offseason. I think he made it public that he wants to stay a Buccaneer. Curtis Samuel is also an interesting receiver. I think if he finds another situation, he could play outside his potential for sure. Um, Scroll down now. Oh, Calvin Ridley,
yeah,
Michael Pittman.
Calvin
Yeah, okay.
Ridley.
Now we're
That'll
now we're
be
getting, yeah,
very interesting. But yeah, look at some of the names on this list. Like, I just feel like more so this year than other years, there are just a lot of talented guys out there that are going to be floating around. Even all the way down here, Gabe Davis, Darnell
yeah,
Mooney, not superstar, but another name out there that he could go to a team and really shape the offense. Like make an impact. Rashid Shaheed, another guy that's not a big name, but a deep ball guy.
yeah.
Talk about the Chiefs; they just got rid of their deep ball guy.
MVS.
In MVS, Rashid Shaheed it could fill that role and do it better, in my opinion. So, and he might be even less. He might be a lot less, especially compared to what he was getting paid. So, yeah, there's a lot of free agents out there. I think as we've seen over the years, running backs really have it the worst. Running backs are definitely the ones that kind of are more contracts, and it's going to be harder for them to get signed in general, especially the older ones now. Um, but yeah, lots of stuff going on, and this draft is really going to show you what's going on. I don't believe I'm not as high on this draft class as I have been. I don't think this is the most star-studded draft that we've seen out of these prospects, but I do think offensively there are some pieces in this draft that could come in and make an immediate impact. So, as you mentioned before, too, it kind of just depends on the spot, depends on the team, what they have planned, and who they put around them on the offense. So, kind of just
Do you like
depends.
this class compared to last class? Like, would you say this class is more stacked than last class?
I would
I mean,
probably go
obviously
with last
hindsight.
year's class.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's tough to say now with hindsight about about last year's class with like Stroud and Richardson and all those guys, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, we'll see how it turns out. I guess that's a better question to ask. I guess at the end of next year, at the end of the next season. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to see. I like the wide receivers, especially like the top three. Harrison, Dunze, and I think Neighbors is the next guy up there. I'm really just excited to see what those guys can do. Brock Bowers is another guy if he finds a good position, with the Chargers, or I think he was linked to the Jets at some point. Like any of those teams that really need like another offensive weapon, especially at the tight end position. Um, he could be an interesting threat. Um, and yeah, the top quarterbacks. Obviously, I'm excited to see what Caleb Williams can do. Um, Jaden Daniels looks exciting as well. So yeah, it's not going to be like a heavy RB class, but that's kind of why free agency. I kind of like that free agency has such a stacked running back class to make up for it.
Yeah, it seems like it kind of shifts every year, like last year was kind of star-studded running backs coming into the league with Bijan right away, and this year you got Blake, Corum from Michigan. So I mean, there's a lot of other guys out there too, but not as star-studded. Not guys that anybody's expecting to make an impact in the first year. That would more so lean towards like the wide receivers this year. But yeah, it seems like the league is kind of just really honing in on not making the wrong decision nowadays. So they are kind of like leaning towards like, hey, if there's no superstars in the draft, let's just go get somebody in free agency to fill the spot, somebody that we've seen what they can do, and kind of go from there. So yeah, it seems like more so than ever. Even though the contracts aren't there for running backs, that running backs in free agency is probably going to be the biggest relevant position this year to see guys signing left and right. And yeah, like you said, that should be coming in the next 2 months here, 2.5 months. So looking forward
Can't
to
wait.
that. Yeah. All right. Well, we kind of just did a quick deep dive into everything. Kind of just gave you some advice, some outlook on some of the prospects we were looking at. Anything you want to let the people know about your dynasty team? I know for anybody watching out there, if you've been watching the videos, Donte has been trying to get Tank Dell for me for a while now, and
You're
and
really gonna bring that up
I
right
just
now? We didn't even talk about it the whole time, even before prep. We didn't even talk about it. How are you gonna bring it up? That's
Got
crazy.
got gotta let the people know. Listen, for
Wow.
all you guys, all you dynasty guys out there, which is who we're targeting with this video, this is all about dynasty and the rookies. Tank Dell, I drafted last year. I think I got him in like the third round. Everybody slept
Fourth.
on him,
Fourth.
mainly because his name on the sleeper tab was Nathaniel, which is his real name, and nobody wants to draft a Nathaniel. But when you do your research and you figure out his nickname is Tank, you do not pass on a guy named Tank, and that's exactly what I did. So, but yeah, for all you dynasty guys out there, me and Donte have been engaged in some talks over the past year or so, and we've had a few close ones, few close trades where we almost both pulled the trigger on each side. I remember at first, Donte gave me an offer, and I was like, "No way, can't do it." And then I think a few days later, I hit up Donte, and I was like, "Dude, I'll give you Tank Dell, let's do it." And then Donte said no. So a lot of
Because you
stuff
want the
there.
friend, because he's leaving out the part where I'm giving up the 101. The 101. He's leaving out that convenient part. Like, I'm not giving you the 101. I'm
Hey,
sorry,
so
bro.
so that is true. That is true. The 101 was involved in the trade for Tank Dell, but so were a lot of other guys. I was also giving him a first round pick back later in the first round. I was giving him a quarterback in Deshaun Watson, wide receiver Drake London. So there was a lot of guys there, and as we're talking here, maybe we give the people a nice little active live trade video. Maybe we pull up the actual dynasty squads on the next video and we try to get a deal done on air. What do you say?
Oh, I'm down for that. I'm absolutely down for that. I don't know if you are though.
All right, we'll see. Depends on the day. If I'm in a good mood, you never know. May just start throwing some names out there. Might be good. We pulled it off last year for everybody watching. Last year, right before the season, I believe, or maybe it was like a week or two in. where we pulled off the three-way deal in Dynasty.
Yes,
And that
sir.
that was beautiful. That was beautiful. It kind of developed on screen, and then as soon as we were done, we were like, no, we got to lock this in, and we got a deal done. So obviously Kyle and Zach couldn't be here tonight, but on the next video, let's get them involved. Let's see if we can work something out. We got a large gap here to fill until next NFL season, so may as well have fun. We did a deep dive into the rookies today. We may even do something where we focus more on like a mock draft coming up. But yeah, dynasty trade sounds really good, so we'll have to get that going there.
Absolutely, and I'm definitely down to do a mock. I'd be down to do like just what would the season like early predictions even before the free agency. So let's try and
Yeah.
get that done.
Yeah, we got some lines out there by Vegas too. They put out some official lines already for teams' win totals and stuff like that. Something that we did do a little bit of last year. We should definitely expand on that a little bit. I know I'm not too high on my Cowboys this year, so I'll be ready to be really harsh on them, and it'll be fun to look at the rest. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna wrap it up here. We appreciate you guys as always. Just keep following along with us all year. And again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.